So, coming to you today from the beautiful land of Scotland, this beautiful forest, at my friend's beautiful retreat center. Beautiful, beautiful, so much beauty. It's full of beauty, beautiful. If you know me, you know that Scotland is like my heart home. So I always feel so joyful to be here. And when the sun comes out in Scotland, which can be rare, it truly is heaven on earth. So I wanted to, drop in today and share about, some of you probably have seen that I did my first ever Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreat for my birthday this year, my 47th birthday. And just finished like a week and a half ago, I think. And whenever, I do something deep and transformational, I remember an elder teacher once told me, don't share for a week. Let it really sit. And it's been really beautiful to be in the integration of it. And so if you're not familiar with Vipassana, it's a technique, actually. I didn't even know this. It was a technique of meditation created by Buddha himself, Gautama Buddha, over 2,500 years ago, or around that time. And there are Vipassana centers all over the world. I don't know how long it's been around for, but the founder of it, Goenka, and you watch beautiful videos of him giving these spiritual teachings every night via video. I mean, those videos are from the 90s. So I imagine it's been around since like the 80s and the 90s. And it's quite amazing because they're all over the world. And I decided to do mine in Herefordshire in England because it just lined up. I was coming from Greece and I was going to Scotland next, and I had this like 2-week window. And I had friends who had gone down to the Vipassana center there. It's called Dhamma Deepa, I believe, and heard great things. So it all lined up. There was spots available because you'll see when you go on websites that it does fill up quite fast, which is amazing to see. I mean, that's one of the big takeaways I took from Vipassana is like, wow, there was like well over 100 men and women in our group. And this is happening like all year round. People are doing a very deep work on themselves. I mean, as Goenka himself says, it's kind of like a psychic surgery operation. And I absolutely enjoyed it. It was definitely challenging. You have to be, really up for being in the discipline. It's a very disciplined sort of day-to-day life that they give you. You're meditating many hours each day. You're up at 4 a.m. First meditation is 4:30 to 6:30. You don't have to sit in the meditation hall, mind you, for each meditation. You can meditate in your shared room. And so that does give you the option if you don't want to follow the schedule in such a disciplined manner. They do recommend that, but you can sort of take breaks. Like I slept in a few days, not that much, but you find your own pace at it. And then there are group sittings where you have to be in the meditation hall. And very profound. I mean, it's very profound to just like turn off the phone and have a digital detox in this day and age for like 10 days, right? So that was also one of the big highlights. And at the Dhammadeepa Center, they had a beautiful forest and meadow. So I was doing tons of nature walks multiple times a day. Many, many people were. And just connecting to the earth, slowing down, and just realizing, wow, when you don't have a phone or a computer around you all the time, your mind, oh my gosh, your beautiful mind just has this ability to just like rest and expand. And you really start to realize, like, my gosh, I mean, this is something that I'm sure a lot of you realize without having a Vipassana experience, but one of the gravest things about technology, especially now with AI, because it's becoming so pervasive, we're using it so much, is that it's cutting us off from the foundation of most spiritual practice. And this is the big takeaway I got from Vipassana, and something Goenka himself said in one of his lectures was always be meditating, always be in the present moment, always have a bit of yourself connected to the inner world. And this is something I had learned by studying Eckhart Tolle's work, which was foundational for me when I had my spiritual awakening in my early 20s. And then when I went on to study Samuel Alvaro, the great Colombian mystic's writing, he was also all about presence, and then eventually found, the presence practice with Michael Brown, But this practice of perpetually being present to your energy, to the moment, has been with me for well over 20 years. And I could say it's the most remarkable spiritual practice you can bring into your life. And to do a 10-day deep dive where you are just turning up the volume of your presence for those 10 days and using the meditation techniques that you're learning is very, very profound. And I think there's a reason why I'm assuming it's gaining popularity, Vipassana. But I can see why, because there's so much technology now just besieging us and ripping our attention span away from our embodied moment-to-moment psychosomatic experience, externalizing us into the screens, which is doing all kind of disarray to dopamine reward cycle of the brain. I mean, it's just creating mental health problems. And then social media, which is just kind of like a Vanity Fair. It's like you're playing with spiritual grandiosity and narcissism and all kinds of strange things. And of course, you're also like sharing information and being an influencer, but those can be masks as well. So when you all of a sudden don't have a phone or don't have technology for 10 days, and you're given this beautiful, time to be in the timeless, to be in your practice of presence, you just start to realize that the mind has so many insights, so many revelations, so much intuition that it's endlessly giving you. ChatGPT is great, AI is great, but the greatest intelligence is that natural intelligence that's just beaming from your heart at any time. And we are in sort of a dire moment where those things are getting seriously atrophied by overuse of technology. There's a balanced way to use it, of course, as a tool. But that was the biggest takeaway for me in Vipassana. I really felt like a regeneration, a reminder, a renewal of the basics, of the foundation of spiritual practice, which is to be present to yourself. And then the technique itself, Vipassana, is very profound. You sit for 1 hour where you are trying your best not to move your posture at all. And you're scanning the body from the top of the head, going through every single body part and being present to every single body part. And the teachings that we get in the evenings are just very profound Eastern Enlightenment teachings, which I love, which was also like the inspiration for a lot of my spirituality at the beginning. So it was really nice to just be reintroduced to Buddhist teachings. They're so profound, they are deep psychological teachings. And remember, psyche is the soul. Psychology means the art of the soul. A lot of spirituality, authentic spirituality, is psychological. But of course, it's psychosomatic because you're working with the soma of the body. So you're scanning the body from head to toe. And the idea is that the body actually holds a lot of our consciousness. And because we keep abstracting up into the intellect, we are actually walking around very disembodied. And this is a lot of the mental health crisis, is that we're cut off from the emotional intelligence, which is swirling in the body, the intuitive intelligence, which is very much about the body. The analytical mind is actually, it's a beautiful tool, but it's very limited. It can just do like this versus that, left, right. It's kind of based on being in schism, in duality. Whereas the body and the heart is the supreme ruler, as the ancient Taoists would say. It brings to bear like a whole other depth to our intelligence. But basically, I think I'm getting this right, Goenka was sort of saying that a lot of our unconsciousness, or our subconscious, and he at one point said there is no such thing as unconscious, it's all just one conscious field. But there's so much that we hold in the body. A lot of the tensions that we hold in the body are actually psychic tensions. They're bondage that's like holding on to thought patterns that no longer serve us, or emotions, or traumatic experiences. All of this is reflected in the body in some way. So as you're scanning the body, and you're bringing presence, you're like shining a light into the shadowy dark of the body, which is, for most of us, has been in the dark because we don't spend a lot of time being in our bodies. And what that does is it brings to bear a lot of these tensions, what's called as these sankalpas, which are like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, the terminology here, it's been a while, but the sankalpas, they're kind of like these repetitive thought patterns. I know in some traditions in yoga, they talk about these being like psychic scars, like we actually can scar our soul field by just overthinking over and over again. Of course, we know neurologically with neuroplasticity, we make grooves in our brain from thought patterns that are just occurring over and over again. And, healing and closing those down and regenerating more fullness in the mind, regenerating, healing those wounds takes time. And this technique is very profound in that healing. So basically, you're scanning the body, and then areas of tension will basically arise. For instance, I had so much tension, and I'm sure it's normal for a lot of people, in the shoulders, because the shoulder and the neck is actually where, I know this from bioenergetics, this is where we present over-controlling in our body, repression, actually, of our energies. And of course, if you live in Western civilization, you're probably repressed. You've been repressing the wildness of your body, of your flesh. There's a lot of sexual repression, for example. It's the most ancient wound. So I just find these like incredible tensions in the shoulder, and then you're supposed to stop and stay with that for about a minute. And you're not supposed to do anything to it. You're not supposed to like try and heal it. You're not supposed to try and like release the tension. Your awareness is an alchemist. Your awareness alone, you're supposed to sit with an equanimity of mind. And what you're doing is you're actually almost reliving a moment where your consciousness had an experience with something where it either went one of two ways. It went into craving, I want more of that, or it went to aversion, like, ooh, I don't like that. And that's sort of seen as like the wheel of samskara, like the essence of our suffering on the planet, is that we're perpetually bouncing back and forth between craving, yearning for things, overly attached, and then aversion to things, which is an attachment as well, an attachment to not having that experience. And what we do is we're kind of torturing ourselves in an inner world. We start to make this personality based on all these like desires, and then all these like fear and desire. And we're given this opportunity to have this experience again with the tension that comes up, and to be in equanimity. If you listen to Goenki's lectures, Goenka is always like, equanimous, be of equanimous mind, anicca, which means everything is transitory. Everything is actually changing. And that's the idea, is that you sit with the tension and you'll find that it actually changes. For me, it didn't change in the sit itself. It would just be like going in. It felt like being at the eye doctor, when you're like focusing in more and more. And, you're just like zooming into it's pain, but it's actually a sensation. So your mind is just trying to be in equanimity, not to resist it. And that can be very challenging for people. For me, I found it actually, I wouldn't say it was easy, but because of my, years training in Qigong and doing embodiment practices, I really kind of almost reveled, or at least felt a familiarity in sitting with those tensions. And what I would notice is when we go to a sit for instance, a few hours later in the afternoon, and we do the Vipassana technique again of meditation, I would notice right away that tension was sometimes even completely gone, or was less, but then it was somewhere else. There was like a new tension. It was just sort of like, if you've ever used like an auto script thing, and like the words are scrolling up on your screen, it's like that. It's like the more you illuminate the body with your awareness, it's like, oh, there it goes, and then they're being released, and then there's just all deeper stuff. And what's remarkable is it's a very practical technique, in the sense that I could feel as the days went on. You're taught this technique on day 4. The first 3 days you actually do more of a concentration-based meditation, just focusing on your breathing. But from day 4 to 10, you're really doing this Vipassana meditation. And what I started to feel as the days went on was I could just feel like this, you could feel it was like deep work. I'd be exhausted after some of them. I would have incredibly powerful dreams about past traumas and stuff being released. And I would just feel this peace. Like I felt like moments of utter bliss, especially when I was walking in the forest, of just feeling like things, being let go, like very deep tensions in my being. And then, of course, when you get to speak on the last day, then, of course, your personality gets to present itself, and you get to, I could feel in social interactions, there was, so much, there was, I was a different person, subtly. sometimes it felt even dramatically, which was very profound. And I still feel quite shifted. So I just adored the experience. I think everyone should do it. And it's non-sectarian. It's not, Buddhism is not a religion, although it has been made a religion in different areas in the world. But it's very much about just learning a very powerful technique. It's the art of living, as Goenka said. And you're following, moral conduct. There's some ethical rules as well that are recommended, so that you can, the idea that Buddha was trying to teach us is to liberate ourselves from our suffering, so that we can make the best of our lives and not be held back and not be squandering them all the time with all these fears and desires, and actually be in service. Because once you start to remove a lot of the tensions in the body, there's a natural inclination to just want to share yourself, to serve others. That lovingness that is at our essence. And when you do the metta practices, which is a sharing of your merit, of your practice at the end of Vipassana, Goenka talks about how there's this light within us that's obscured, and it's just shining. It's like the light of the divine, like the light of the sun. And when you get in touch with that, it just wants to serve, it just wants to share. And we need more of that in the world, obviously. It's loving kindness that's emanating from that as well. So I absolutely adored the experience. It's definitely been challenging to keep the practices going, because they recommend that you do an hour in the morning, hour at night. And I had a integration. I booked an Airbnb for myself near Stroud in England afterwards. And immediately I had a bunch of work to do, but I also had time to take some beautiful nature walks and do some of the meditations. But of course, being in Scotland with friends and traveling hasn't been so easy, but I've been doing them here and there. And I do feel very inspired to do a Vipassana once a year, though, for sure. And to also serve at a Vipassana and help out in that way, because it's by donation, which is incredible. Incredible. All over the world, these Vipassana centers are just filled, and it's just by donation. It's not a business, which is so refreshing, right, in the spiritual marketplace, which I play into as well, where we're all charging money and trying to make a living off this stuff. But there's something that gets sullied in that. That was another teaching that Goenka brought through, which definitely I need to reflect on more and more. But yeah, very profound experience. Highly, highly recommend it. Go check it out. It's probably near you somewhere. It's challenging, but it's nothing. There's nothing like a good challenge. We need to flex our souls, and it's nothing. There's no better feeling than going through an experience like an initiation, where you feel stronger for facing into an adversity. But it's not impossible by any means. I definitely felt intimidated going to Vipassana, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so hard. And yeah, it definitely had its challenging moments, but you're well fed. You get 2 meals a day. You eat usually just a few pieces of fruit for dinner, or if you're a returning student, you just get lemon water. But it's nice to actually have a bit of a intermittent fast at that point. So highly recommend it. So just wanted to share that with you, some of my experiences with Vipassana. It's really nice to just, as I said, rejuvenate kind of that authentic foundation of spirituality, being in presence. Meditation is the daily bread. If you're not meditating every day, I don't want to make it too dogmatic, but there's, to me, meditation and presence are just essential if you're going to be living some kind of excellent life. So feeling really grateful, really blessed that this experience came to me, and I hope to continue doing it again and again and again. And maybe I'll see some of you at a Vipassana center somewhere in the world. So sending you so much love from Bonnie, Scotland. Awen.